Hey, good evening, trading addicts. Welcome to the weekly watch list. This is Jeff Kohler, aka the Option Addict, from over at www.tradingaddicts.com. So, had a really strong read, from the early onset of October, and talking in the, in our chat room and whatnot about, big market rally coming, going to be a big one. We made it all the way up to that price objective we had talked about. And I was looking for about 1275 in the S&Ps. We overshot that by a little bit. But basically wanted to see prices come in and fill that volume pocket up north of that trading range that we were in. That's happened. We've since settled off that a little bit. But last week, I kind of downplayed things a little bit and said, I really don't have a strong read on the market from here. After a 20% increase in 1 month, it's not just like we're going to keep ripping up from here, nor am I really all that bearish on stocks right now. I got to be honest. What I'm thinking is that I'm going to go and show you this volume pocket that's right up through here. You can see this little crevice in my chart that takes place. Look at the S&Ps right here, from about just under 1220, about 1210 or so, to about 1250. I would wager that we'd probably spend a little bit of time in here, at least for the early part of the week. I don't see anything as of yet. This could change throughout the week. I'm just kind of going off of a early read here. But I bet you we spend a little bit more time trading a little bit more volume and trying to fill up this pocket a little bit more. You'll notice that we sold off back in August. We traveled through that volume pocket really quick. When we broke out, we traveled up through it really quick. So I'm thinking that we coil and consolidate here, and probably by the time it's all said and done, the S&Ps probably look a little something like this. And you can see that that's basically what the end game was from this week last week, was we just kind of sit here and formed a little bit of a pennant or a wedge, whatever you'd like to title it here. But that's kind of so far what we're working with. And I don't wonder if the range opens up just a little bit more, than what we're looking at here in a 20-day chart. But I gotta say, I'm not all that bearish on equities right now. That's just it. And in going out and looking for chart setups, they've never been stronger. There's a lot of good bullish setups out there. So my idea going forward is, I'm going to try to still do my thing and pick individual stocks. I think we have a pretty strong hand at that. But I'm not going to be betting against too many stocks either. I'll probably take some hedges via VXX, maybe some TZA, but like I said, I'm not all that bearish on stocks right here. And I still, for right or wrong, my sleeper trade here are the banks. And I think that these guys will be responsible, when we do start to rally, when we do start to, see a big sized swing, it's going to be led by the banks. They broke out and got up into this volume pocket, but then quickly turned back a little bit. And, you go and you look across a lot of individual bank stocks, look at your Citigroups, your Bank of Americas, even the regionals. The regionals look fantastic. But these guys still have massive volume pockets overhead. The kind of volume pockets that we saw in the energy and the material stocks way back into the beginning of last month. Go back and see the last weekly watch list that we did like 3-4 weeks ago, and the volume pockets in the energy and material stocks were saying that those stocks had the greatest potential upside. We slaughtered that group. We absolutely nailed that. A lot of those stocks we caught, 20-30% moves in. But now I'm looking at the banks, and I want to see these guys kind of trade up a little bit. I want to see that BKX recapture 40 start to trade up a little bit. And if I were going to take a gamble, just on a whim here, I think it's got to be for these banks to start to firm up a little bit. If they do, I think we hit those pretty hard, and I think those will be the guys responsible for the next big move in stocks. But for right now, everything's looking good. I've got a super long weekly watch list this week, probably the longest I've had this year, and I'm just going to hit some of the highlights here of stuff that I like, stocks that I would be trying to bet on. Little setups here like OVTI. Coiling, consolidating, saw a decent sized move here on Friday, broke above the 50-day moving average for the first time in a few months. And now you got to be looking at this to break up and enter some volume pockets and some gaps up overhead. OVTI looks good. I mean, any of those, like the CRUS looks pretty good. You probably want to look at that on a little bit longer chart. Skyworks Same thing, looking to set up decent little basing patterns here with some pretty decent upside potential. But that OVTI is the one that I like the best. Also looking at WPRT again, which has been coiling up pretty nicely now that earnings are out of the way. Great spot to anticipate a little bit of a continuation out of this coiling pattern. I'm slowly. I've been kind of last week. I really didn't like the material space at all, but in looking at these a little bit closer, dialing down time frames, you'll take a look at something like Patriot Coal. If a stock like this just manages to just do its own thing next week, it's a decent spot to give this a try. The way that it's wound up pretty tight, and most of these stocks have reached and filled their volume pockets. And so there's no guarantees here in terms of huge, ripper upside, but I think they at least got to get into some of this overhead supply from way back here. A lot of the energy stocks have started to do that. I think the material stocks probably got to get up into those ranges as well. So Patriot Coal is one that I'm looking at. I got to be watching the Google here, straight up. If this thing breaks, it's a guaranteed move to 625. I've tried this a couple times, haven't been able to catch it just right, but you zoom out here a little bit and gosh, you'd think that Google, just the way that it's been in this range for so long, it's due to test the upper end of that range, and the weeklies have been great vehicles to try to catch those moves. So if you see Google starting to come out of this little range right here, if it gets up above 600 and it likes it, hold for 625. I think that's a pretty easy trade if it sets up this week. Back into energy materials, Century Aluminum. If it breaks this range, here's your volume pocket right up here through about getting pretty close to 14. We should see that filled pretty easy if that one breaks. Century Aluminum is one of my favorites. My bad. LRCX. Yeah, I like the way that this thing's all coiled up here. Semiconductors actually had some pretty good price action last week, and Lam Research I think looks pretty good up to that 200-day moving average. Not a huge move, but it should be a pretty easy spike to catch. A similar pattern is in SFSF. Like the setup, high beta stock, and the move to that 200-day moving average is about 10%. So I think that's an easy one to catch here. Come Monday morning, if that thing opens up a little bit, the market's nice and firm, I think you go after that one. AVGO, nice little multi-month triangle pattern. Love to see those setups. I've actually got some calls here in Pandora, but Pandora I think looks pretty nice. A couple others, IBM. Great spot to try IBM to break out here. Looks really good. IMAX, as we talked about volume pockets earlier. Like the way that it's all coiled up here at resistance. And then going back to that volume pocket, that thing gets up to about 200-day moving average, which is up at about 25. It's a monster move for that stock, but I could see it happening. CMA, I think, will illustrate the pattern I'm looking for in the regionals and in some of these banks. This one, just to me, just looks the best. Coiling up here near the highs, beautiful rounded bottom setup. Nothing but thin air up to about 31. 200-day moving average, basically. A lot of setups like there in financials. CRM, again, look at some of these on 30-day charts. If they hold, they're at really good spots to try. CRM, I think you'll even see Baidu. Baidu's pretty coiled up here. Looks pretty good. Amazon, just about anything. Some of the small caps I like this week, I'll just hit a few. Call me crazy, but I like this action in solars. Same reason, I'm looking for the groups that haven't filled volume pockets. Solars are one. GKK. Could look at this on a longer dated chart too, but started getting some volume here at the end of last week, all coiled up. Beautiful setup. I like that one. Let's see. I like some dang this week, the way that it's flagging off that 50-day moving average. If you like the rare earth play, look at this QRM. Coiled up really nicely, volume pocket all the way up to 4. ICA, another one that's just kind of coiled up here. WAVX, ASYS, blah blah blah. I've already gone for 10 minutes, so my list goes well beyond that, guys. But there's a lot of great setups out there. I think this market probably spends a little bit more time in this volume pocket to fill up those ranges a little bit more. But after that, I think once we can get what the range looks like and how it coils, flag, wedge, whatever's going to be the end game here, we'll try to find the best spot to buy the dip, and a lot of great setups out there. So That's all I got for you this week, guys. This has been the Option Addict. That's been my weekly watch list. Thanks for watching. Have a profitable week.